Hi, and welcome to our coverage of a very key match from the Belgian Backgammon Individual Championship, here with a very strong player from the club of Antwerp. The club of Antwerp is a new club that is created by Inge van der Doppel, an amazing player, a very strong player who is like the creator and the dynamizer of that club. Hi, Inge.
Hi, Itzhak. How are
Maybe,
you?
maybe say a couple of words about the club. I'm doing fine. Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too, and thank you for having me. Yes, our club has quite some history. It existed already a long time before, and then it stopped. I don't know exactly why, but now the club has been revived, and we will soon organize some summer tournaments on the Antwerp Grand Place.
This is absolutely awesome. We are going to include the link to the website of that club in the video description. So if anybody comes to the Antwerp area anytime, you can coordinate and you can know when these tournaments are going to be taking place.
Great, great.
So,
Yes, I would love to put the website link in the comments.
definitely. No, not in the comments, in the video description.
In video description. Okay.
Yes, I will put it right after the broadcast. Probably we're going to have a number of links there. So the first one is going to be the club at Antwerp. It's a new initiative. It's quite exciting. Traditionally in Belgium, we have main clubs in Leuven, in Ghent, and in Brussels. And recently we have new clubs opening up, and the one in Antwerp should be quite charming. I've seen the photography. Soon I will come to play there as well. And today
Great, great. Yeah, it would be nice to receive you in Antwerp.
it will be a pleasure to come. So today we're going to be covering one of the main or most important duels from the recently concluded Backgammon Championship of Belgium. We had this championship held in Ghent on the third weekend of June. And we had two very strong grandmasters play each other. One of them is Mark van Damme, Grandmaster 2 of BMAB. And the other one is Geert van der Stricht, who is not yet quite qualified as a grandmaster, but he plays at that level, and soon I'm sure that he will receive the title. He's also the Belgian champion for 2026. They played a very interesting match. I'm not going to tell you who won. I'm just going to tell you that Geert finished the entire tournament without losing even one. So maybe that gives you an idea. Anyway, let's get started. So we have here, basically, it's a match to 9 points. It was quite a grueling event, one weekend, and you have to play 5 matches with a full time control on day 1, and then 4 on day 2. And both players started quite well, with 4 victories out of 4. And at round 8, they met each other for this very interesting effort that we're going to see here. We will see Geert playing the black pieces, heading to the right, bearing off from the right. And we will see, of course, Mark playing with the white pieces and also bearing off to the right on the upper side. We have here the moves on the left, and you can see already that both of them are really, really good players because we are using this software that is called Extreme Gammon that is mercilessly analyzing the quality of play and awarding the moves by evaluations. Some moves are good, some moves are not so good. And we see here that almost all of the moves are black. And black means a really, really good move, either the very best one or close to the best one. You have here in this opening screen, you have one green, which is kind of a slight error, not the most precise move. And we have one glaring red. The glaring reds are the big errors. But for most players, these errors are not that big. They're quite understandable. And most players would get a page here full of greens and reds. To have just one tiny red and one tiny green in the entire first page, and it goes for 13 moves, that's quite remarkable. And we can see here on the bottom where it says at the match level, we see that they both played at a very powerful world-class level of around 4. Mark played slightly better. The match was long. It had many games, and they maintained Grandmaster level is everything below 4. Geert played very slightly above. Obviously, these levels are average. They're both outstanding players, and there is much to learn from the way they play against each other and probably on occasion against the dice. So let's get right into it. First move, and we see here Mark rolling an opening 5-2. We see here, obviously, the opening positions, and we see here the arrows that shows us where the checkers are going. We can switch here between the different types of viewing it. Sometimes we see the final position where the checkers end up, but I'm going to be using the arrow presentation, just showing where the checkers are going. This is a very standard way to start. And Geert makes a little bit of an inaccurate move, simply running out with this checker all the way with a 5-4.
Yes, yes. I must say, Itzhak, I can understand why you would play it like that. It duplicates a lot of trees. for example, if you throw 3-1, you would like to make the 5 point, and now Mark will have to hit him on the 15 point. So therefore, I understand that he plays it like that. Yeah.
Exactly. But why is it not the best move, actually? Inge, why is it not the best move, actually?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. 24-20.
Maybe we can explain this. Normally in the opening, we want to do things on both sides of the board. And if we look at the best move here, it does two things at the same time. First of all, notice this move from the 13 to the 8, which redistributes the checkers and unloads a very heavy point on the 13. And in addition, obviously in backgammon, we want to be racing. And these are 5 pips, so 5 moves that we make that will never be taken away from us. All of these pips that this checker was traveling until it reaches the outfield, all of these pips can be taken away if white rolls what?
If white rolls a 3 or a 2-1.
A 3, a 2-1. What about double sixes?
Yes, double sixes as well would do the trick.
What about double fours?
1, 2, double fours as well. Indeed.
Yeah, maybe there are better moves to make with double fours and with double sixes, but just to see that this checker is very exposed, so all of these 9 pips can be taken away very easily. And when I play a 5 like this, when I play a 5 from the midpoint to the 8, these 5 pips stay with us for the rest of the game, and we open the possibility of making an advanced anchor on the 20, and we do it before white is ready to attack. So this is a very useful opening game. It kind of mirrors what white was doing, except that we are trying for a more ambitious point in the opponent board compared to what he was doing in our board.
Yes.
So the preferred move by far.
Yeah, and 3-1 would be a very nice roll for white, and then white would have to choose between pointing on Geert's head and making the 5, or making a 4-point anchor, the 20-point anchor, on the 21-point anchor.
3-1 is an absolutely awesome roll for white. And of course, we hope that it doesn't roll it. But if you roll it, we just re-enter and the life goes on, you know?
Yeah.
It's not that fatal. It's still the opening. So let's continue. We see actually, this was the move made, of course. Let's return to arrows. We see Geert simply running into the outfield. And we see Mark rolling a 5-1, not hitting. This is not exactly what you want to roll. And Geert has here a wonderful roll, which is double aces, pointing on the head of Mark. Beautiful roll. And Mark already cannot enter, which already gives Geert a very significant advantage. How do you feel, by the way, about the doubling cube, using the doubling cube if it was your turn here?
Well, at this point, I would not yet cube, since black has only 8 checkers in the zone. For that reason, I would not cube at this stage.
Great answer. Great answer. I would say the same thing exactly. Give me one more checker in the zone. Put this. I'm going to copy this position. This is, we can see that also the computer doesn't recommend to cube, even though look how close it is. It is practically a borderline cube. So this any tiny change in the position in our favor, and it becomes a cube. Let's take this position and put it here. And let's just move this checker down. With this, just one extra checker here. This is a really good place for an extra checker. And we see that it already becomes a cube. We see it, of course, if we ask the computer to evaluate the cube action, then we see it, otherwise we don't. And also, it has to be the right player to play. And then we really see the right answer. And yes, here we see that it's a very clear double and take simply by the extra checker. And obviously, I ask you this question for a reason, because this position looks super close to a cube. We see that we are really missing a little. There are very clear advantages that black has. Black has already escaped the checker almost all the way. White has a very awkward front position with big towers there on the 8 and the 6. We have a board point. We have a second checker behind. There is a checker on the bar. It's almost there, but not quite. Something is still missing.
Exactly.
Right. Let's continue. So, yeah, basically, Geert got here a free move, which he uses very well to solve all of the problems that we saw before and create a very challenging position for Mark to answer to. because he's making a very menacing outfield point, creating a priming structure, very powerful. Now he has 10 checkers ready to attack. Mark still has to re-enter from the back, from the bar. It was very unlucky to roll a 6-4. And Mark does enter, but it's a little bit clumsy entry. The entry is quite clumsy because, first of all, he enters on the ace. He would like to have a better anchor. Then he rolls a 3. He cannot even play it inside Mark's board. And anything he does exposes a blot. So if it was not quite a cube before, this is already a very, very clear cube, very robust cube. And the thing is that Mark made a very useful move with the 3. Mark was preparing already the best point that he wants to make inside his board. It is a blot, it is a candidate to be hit, it is true. But if it's not hit, Mark is also building something. So this is the reason he can take the cube, I suppose. I'm not sure that he could take if he played the 3 any other way.
Yeah, and also I think it's good to already put to slot the 5 point, White's 5 points, because if he gets hit, it unstacks the heavy 17 points, and you get your checker back into the game instead of towering it up.
And this is the problem, because in this position, the risk also, I mean, if he gets hit here, his position is very dangerous, because it means also that black is beginning to escape, and there might be repercussions. I mean, there might be more hits coming after that. After he enters, there might be more hits and more points made. We see that we are already at almost 20% gammon loss risk. Obviously, the black position is becoming menacing, but you can still take. It's not sure that this checker will be hit. This is the moment to double, because I believe if you do hit, probably you can no longer get a take next turn. And here it's Geert's turn to roll something unimpressive, a 5-1. And really, there is no better way to play this. It's an awkward roll. You come to the point where White wants to hit you the most, and ideally also cover the 5 point. So White has some chances to recover. And we see here basically White playing a very understandable move that actually the computer doesn't like. The computer likes a better game more, another move more. This is interesting. Yeah. Inge, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think, the 24-18 hits on the 7 points. And when you hit on the 7 point and you can make the 7 point at the same time you do it, so I understand the 2 checkers from 13 to 7. And then, playing 2 checkers from 8 to 2 will finally get White a 2-point board. Yeah, in fact, I'm not sure why the computer doesn't like running with back checkers, because Geert has a starting prime, and now White is preventing him
notice that the computer does like running the 2 back checkers. The best also runs, you see. Running is imperative. Running, you have to run. The only question is what you do with the other 6s.
Indeed, he doesn't want to hit there,
Maybe I will say a couple of words about this.
Yeah.
So first of all, obviously, White has the weaker board by far. Okay, so the computer doesn't like it. Look, black was forced to get past the blot and run into the outfield. So the computer doesn't like it that black is getting another chance to hit on the 5 point. And let's not forget that there is another blot exposed on the 13. We have 2 blots here. And this is one thing that sometimes we need to evaluate in match play. Matches are very, very sensitive, and there is always a lot of tension on the line. Mark and Geert are both the 2 top players of the country, and whenever they meet, there is also some points of prestige, of course, and the games are difficult, and the games are stressful. You have to deal with the other personality in front of you, and double 6s is a very transformative role. It changes the position radically. From White being trapped behind the prime, White just got his freedom. And more importantly, from White being back in the race and trying to recover, just has to watch from the 24 as black escapes checkers from the inner board of Mark. Suddenly, White is going to be ahead in the race after this roll. Okay? So this means that if you escaped and if you are ahead in the race, but your board is weaker, you want to be a bit careful. You want to play a bit more conservative. You don't want to allow your opponent to catch up by hitting blots.
Yeah.
If this checker here is on the 7, you don't want to get it back on the bar from where it can easily hit more checkers. This is the reason that it's a blunder, even though the move is very tempting to play. It's very intuitive. Double sixes in the opening. We generally come from the back and play to the 7. And if we can hit a checker there, then wow. It's just not the right moment for that. And this is the only blunder in the early game. We can see that. The only blunder played by Mark. Okay, so let's see. Here we see Geert entering and successfully jumping over the prime, but without hitting anything. So this is good for Mark, who now actually has the advantage because it's his turn and he can hit something and maybe also cover. But also Mark doesn't roll so well. 2-1 makes the 5, and the positions are now pretty even. Of course, it will be different if something gets hit. 6-4, and we now have something that we know as some kind of a holding game. A holding game in the sense that, okay, the race is pretty equal, but Mark still has to extract an anchor from the bar point where the 6s are blocked. I think that in the early development of the theory of backgammon about 100 years ago, in the 1930s, the opponent bar point was called the trap point, in the sense that even if you successfully manage to get there, it's not so simple to get out of it.
Yeah.
When I was a less experienced player, sometimes I would get this point and I would be leading in the race and I would cube because I thought, okay, fine, I'm leading in the race. Any nice double, I break contact. And those cubes were very heavy blunders because, yes, it is a trap. You are stuck there. Obviously, it's much better than being stuck farther back, but still you have some work to extract yourself. All right, let's see how this plays out. From here, it's basically just what the dice roll and either player waiting for some kind of big doubles in order to drastically improve their situation. And we see that Geert already gave a cube. And well, you know, that's you want to have access to the cube in positions like this. This gives some slight edge to Mark that only he can cube if things go his way. And we see here 6-3 by Mark, and Geert rolls a double 4s. Very powerful roll.
Yeah.
Very powerful roll. But, you know, there is not much of a race advantage, and he already gave the cube, so it's not decisive or anything. The rest doesn't require much commentary, I believe. Let's just look at the moves. Here, of course, it doesn't make much sense to make the 3-point because you're already preparing. It's very useful to make more board points when you want to trap checkers, but here white is not looking to trap black checkers. White is looking to escape and to race. And when you're going to bear off checkers, you want many checkers on your high points, the 6, the 5s, and the 4s. Maybe you want one checker on the other points, but you're not trying to build a complete board. This is important to say for some of the less experienced viewers, I think. And 6-5 and another 6-5. We see simply a pure race here. I don't see much to do. Of course, we notice here that Geert makes it clear that he doesn't want gaps on the high points in his board. It's very awkward if you brought all of the checkers inside your board, and then every time you roll a 5, you need to run from the 6 to the 1. Very awkward, very unpleasant. Ideally, you want to have something to take off. So Geert makes sure that it happens. And obviously, Mark doesn't get a very convincing racing goal here with the 2-1. Let's keep looking. Okay, 4-2. Here it's Geert's turn to roll low. Obviously, Mark would love nothing here than to be able to send the recube to 4 at a good moment. So Mark should be quite happy to see this roll. Let's see how this continues. Double 5s from Geert. I'm also watching this for the first time, just like you. All right, so Mark seems to have quite a convincing, Geert seems to have quite a convincing lead here. He doesn't seem to turn around for the time being. Quite straightforward as a race. And double 6s, that's a very convincing end to the game. And we have here Geert leading 2-0. Any concluding thoughts about this game?
No, it was just a very strong performance, I think, from both players. And the only blunder made, as you said, was that double 6, and double 6s are always difficult to play. It's very easy to make a blunder with playing doubles over the board in general. So I think it was a very strong performance of these two players.
It is true. Sometimes the doubles give us, especially when the doubles are really good for us, and they give us so many opportunities to play, and we can make many convincing plays, escaping two checkers and then hitting an enemy blot, making the bar point. And sometimes it doesn't cross our minds that maybe the situation changed fundamentally and we don't have the same priorities as we had before the rolls, or alternatively that a better play exists. This is why we say that with great dice comes great responsibility. We go to game 2. That's a short game, and we already see the result. We already see that Geert collects another point here. We couldn't see this on the first game because obviously it was quite long. Let's see how it unfolded. So here, Mark got the opening roll. We see how he played it, 3-2. That's a standard way to play the opening roll. And okay, Geert is immediately off to a great start, making a super powerful board point, unloading both of the heavy points, the 6 and the 13, having a very useful structure with 10 checkers in the attacking zone. We call the attacking zone everything that comes after the opponent's midpoint, especially look at these checkers here on the 11 when we don't have the 5 point. If you already had the 5 point, then the checkers on the 11 don't really have anything to attack, and we are not sure that they are really in the zone, because the idea is being able to attack directly with one die. And from the 11, now if you roll a 6, you're going to attack something. Yes, either you attack a point that you want to make or you attack an enemy blot. But if the 5 point was already made, then the checkers on the 11 are not already in the zone. Here it is. We have 10 checkers in the zone. Very powerful position. Opponent on the bar. Mark is definitely suffering in the opening stages of this match. Until now, and he rolls a 1-6 and he hurries to come outside. Coming outside is, to be honest, it's a bit difficult to justify. What do you say about this? It's the correct move. But what do you say about this?
I think it's the best 6 to play. What other 6 could white play? He could have slotted a 5 point,
there you go.
leaving
there you go,
leaving a blot, but with 2 builders to make the point. Actually,
there are arguments in favor of slotting it. It's not the absolutely correct move, but we still see it in black. There are very good reasons to make that play. I mean, I don't know, because for me, the backgammon moves, they speak. It's like they speak a language. And we see here, for example, this poor white checker that was just hit on the head and made a point on the 4. And it just comes from the bar. He's like, please hit me some more. Make some more points on my head. Now, we can understand the move. We can understand the move bar 18, because some rolls don't play quite so well. Obviously, Geert would like to make the 5 point here, and suddenly there is this checker on the 7 threatening to anchor. So obviously Geert would prefer, Mark would prefer it if Geert made the 7 point instead of the 5 point. For example, a roll like 6-1. Okay, yeah. Like 6-1, normally you would make the 5. Here you are obliged to make the 7 and leave the 5 open. This is understandable, but something must be said in favor of the other play as well. They're quite close. And it's also in black. The other play says, okay, fine. It's like Mark is telling Geert, well, I see that you made some very convincing progress in your side of the board, so I'm not going to challenge you there right away. I'm going to build something on my side. That makes sense. That makes sense. Both plays make sense. And also, let's remember that also Mark is behind on the score, so maybe it's a good idea to also build some offensive and create some deterrence in a game that is more double-sided, other than I'm trying to come out and let's see if you can hit me again. And, sometimes you build an attack and build a position by hitting the opponent over and over and building. And at some point, I mean, obviously both plays are comparable in quality. They just tell different stories.
Yeah.
All right. So here we have Geert, as predicted, pointing again on Mark's head on the 7 point. And this time Mark is entering quite modestly with 2-1. Slotting the 5 here is already not so accurate. Apparently it's an error. But there are things to say in favor of that. I mean, both of them, there are things to say in favor of them. The way that it is played, obviously it comes to the edge. It comes to the edge of something that is like a forming prime. You see, so he can either anchor and he sees daylight, he can escape with 6s, or he can escape with a 6 next turn. And, if you play this move, which is less accurate, but again, there is something to say for trying to build your own structure. In any case, obviously, Mark is not in a comfortable position. I'm kind of trying to tempt him, standing behind his back and trying to tempt him after the fact to make slight errors that become progressively worse as the game continues. But Mark plays really the best moves and the most accurate and disciplined moves. Certainly not easy to do. And yes, Geert simply has very good rolls, apparently. This one is maybe not that good, but it hits two checkers, put two checkers on the bar. Geert doesn't let Mark breathe even for a second. Again, the best move here. Mark enters, and well, apparently this is already a good moment to cube. What do you think?
Yes, indeed, I also think it is a very good cube because Geert has a possibility of hitting a second checker and even closing the checker, closing the 1 point, doing that, like 4-1 would put the second checker on the bar and covering his blot on the 1 point, but also 5-1, 6-1 would do it. Then he has the fly shot, 6-4, hitting the checker on the 14 point. But even other rolls like 3-1 would make the 5 points and making an actual 4-point prime. And closing another point in his board, or even a 6-1 would close the 5 point as well. Or if he would cover the blot on the 8, would also be a great roll.
You see, I see that you really analyze many of the roles and you see many things, but I'm going to play a bit devil's advocate and maybe present a more practical question. So first of all, some of the roles that you mentioned are duplicated. The 6-1, you mentioned it as making the 5, but also as hitting and covering. You cannot do both. The 6-4, you hit from the 24, but you could also cover your 1 and hit a second checker inside your board. That was also possible to do. And if we look like at the position, the black position, it looks like a promising position. It's an attacking position. Yes, we have 10 checkers on the board, but the position is disorganized. We have many gaps in the position. We have a blot. There are many ways that white can enter. Also, black has all of the opportunities. Sorry, what am I saying? White has all of the opportunities to make points on his own side of the board. He has all of the checkers in play, no big weaknesses. Let's say that practically, when I'm playing this match, if I was sitting in the position of Geert, playing this match, kind of attacking. By the way, black didn't start even escaping. Black is still standing with both checkers on the 24. And if we look at the percentages, we see that white is going to win 36% of the time, which is a lot. 36% of the time, white will win. Obviously, black didn't move yet from the back. He's still quite disorganized at the front, blots and everything. How could I find this cube if I'm actually sitting and playing that? Not to mention that I'm leading in the score. I'm leading 2-0, and I should be quite afraid of recubes. Imagine in this volatile position, if the cubes come back at 4, and if Mark can win a gammon and just win 8 points in one game, and this can happen, the position hasn't stabilized, how can I be expected to find the cube like this?
Yeah, because I think Mark White's front position is not developed at all, and he's on top of that, he's on the bar.
Okay, we have a good answer already.
Yeah. The lack of structure of the front position is, I think, the reason why this is a cube.
Absolutely. This is exactly what I was looking for. Brilliant answer. And this is the thing. This is the key. It is true that if we are playing black here, our position is not convincing yet. But the question is not so much how convincing my position is, but the comparison between the two. And sometimes exactly because the white position is so disorganized, we notice this awkward stack on the 6. We notice that there are no additional points beyond the points that white had when he started. There is another blot to catch on the 14. There is a blot on the bar. There is a blot inside the board. So our position is kind of forming. If it gets too strong, white cannot take it anymore. And because white didn't create meaningful progress on his side of the board, this is the reason we can cube here. You need to be a bit sensitive. We notice that also the cube is quite close, which means that if we had a slightly bigger advantage, if we're leading 3-0 or 4-0, it already wouldn't be a cube.
Yeah.
It is sensitive to the score, but we still cube when we are leading 2-0 here. Quite interesting. Quite interesting. So even if we don't cube here, we should at least suspect a cube. We should make the analytics take into the consideration the score. But what makes us think about a cube is A, we are attacking. We put a checker on the bar. We have many good rolls. B, and more importantly, white is undeveloped. Many times when we attack, we tend to only look at one side of the board, and then we would miss the cube because we think that it's still not convincing. We only have 2 points. There are blots, black blots everywhere. We could easily miss this cube if we didn't look and see that white is undeveloped. Very good,
Yeah.
very good answer, and very good analysis. I can definitely see your improvement. You will
Thank you, Itzhak. I think that Geert might have thought that it was a little bit too early in this score to cube, because we can see that the next roll he is doubling.
Ah, yes, it's true. This
Yeah.
cube was missed. Only now I noticed. Yes, finally this cube was not given, which is not a big mistake. It's green. You see, this number appears with green. This is an error. It's an imprecision, but it's like completely forgivable in the grand scheme of things. It means that whether you cube or not, more or less, the value that you hold in your hands is pretty similar. It is slightly better to cube, but not absolutely obligatory. And here Geert rolled a 6-2, and apparently this should be much better to hit and cover than to make the 5 here. Making the 5 is a great structural move, but this position has a certain momentum that you don't want to miss. I'm going to give it a little bit of a more accurate analysis just to see how big the difference is, but it's a very big difference. Already we can see here that black is going to win a gammon 41% of the time if he simply makes a third board point and puts 2 checkers on the bar with more attackers and an opportunity to capture the third checker in his good time. Doesn't have to happen immediately. And he only wins a gammon 27% of the time if he doesn't. So this should be enough for a cube, and we are not sure if Mark can take it. Let's see how it happened. Next move here. Yes, Mark does enter. Does enter.
With 1 checker, yes.
But that's kind of weak. And it doesn't give him enough incentive to take the cube. It's almost as though Geert could simply continue attacking here, but it's more cautious to simply ask for the point and receive it. It's more cautious.
Yeah. Also, the 6-1 covering the 1 point and putting the second checker on the bar, in my opinion, was better, because if black would get hit on the 1 point, it would throw him back 24 pips in the race.
Exactly. And in this position already, there is nothing to hit inside the board. And another player in Geert's place could be tempted to keep playing here and not present the cube. I'm not sure that I would be cubing this. I might be taking another roll. I might be telling myself the story that it's really easy to escape the white territory, and maybe I'm making another point, and maybe I will cash the point later. But Geert is playing very, very disciplined game here. He presents the cube, and Mark drops it, and we have 3-0. This is extreme gammon, and it gives us many analytical tools. One tool is called dice distribution, and it allows us to see how the game would be likely to develop with each one of the possible rolls for ourselves and for our opponents, also several rolls ahead, not only the immediate 2. And in this kind of situations, when we ask ourselves, was it correct to present the cube that we already know that the opponent is not going to take? Obviously, Geert doesn't expect Mark to really accept to play for doubled stakes. He knows very well that he's getting a point. But in this position, it's really tempting to keep on playing. Look at this. You are winning a gammon almost half of the time, 46%. So if we try to understand what leads a strong grandmaster to understand that he shouldn't be pursuing the gammons, but just quietly taking another point, dice distribution can help us do this. We simply right-click here inside this box, the winning chances box, or anywhere below it. We right-click and we go into dice distribution. And we can immediately see some different ways of showing us. This is the simplest, simply showing us all of the rolls from the best to the worst, with equities, with the value of the position. By the way, I have an instructive videos on these numbers that you see here. If you're not familiar with them or you don't know what they mean, I will also put a link in the description, the video about these weird computer numbers. This is something that really discourages many players from working with software because they don't understand them. It's a 20-minute video, could help. And there is another interesting aspect of this window that I'm going to speak about it right after we hear a word from our sponsor. Hi, this is Backgammon Master Isaac Solsky. I'm the sponsor for this program, and I'm a trainer with the Backgammon Learning Center. We watch videos in order to learn backgammon and improve our play. We like reading books and articles. We like posting questions in all kinds of backgammon forums and take advice from strong players. But if we are serious about improving our game, there is no substitute for a methodical approach, like having a personal coach take us systematically through all of the aspects of the game, teach us the reference positions, and see where we are stuck when we have a problem, where we think the wrong way, where we always tend to have the same kind of errors. A personal coach can notice our specific needs and failings and take us exactly through the road that we personally need to travel in order to reach the next level as soon as possible. Why spend years trying to collect all of the relevant information on our own, while a good coach can simply show us what we specifically need to learn at our own rhythm, at our own time, always recognize the next bit of information that will take us to the next level and save us a lot of time and effort in our backgammon journey. Join the Backgammon Learning Center today. You'll see the email address in the description. Drop me a note and let's schedule your first lesson. And we're back. So yeah, this box gives us something that is called market losers. Market losers, 68.2%. Market losers, what does it actually mean, Inge? Maybe you want to explain?
Yes, a market loser is in fact a sequence of roles by which your double take could turn into a double pass. So if you row that exact row and the opponent, for example, dances, it would make your cube action a double pass. And therefore you might want to double now before rolling the market loser. So you might have a double take.
This is an excellent explanation. Exactly. Many positions, when we consider to double, we want to say, wait a minute, why don't I wait a little more until my position improves? And then you say, wait a minute, if it improves a little more, then the opponent will not take it. And I want him to take it because I want to play for more. But here we have the opposite situation. Here, the temptation is to not cube and to play on and maybe win a gammon and get 2 points. So here we look at the market losers for the opposite reasons, because if 68% of the time, next turn he cannot take the cube, this means that 32% of the time he will be able to take the cube next turn. This means that things can go wrong here. Maybe I will hit and get hit back. Maybe I will roll something kind of maybe, I don't know, like something like a 4-1, something that I don't really want to roll. It doesn't do anything. And suddenly the opponent is out with double fives and I cannot even double. So 32% of the time, the opponent will be able to take a cube next turn. So maybe it is better to give the cube now and take a point when the opponent is in a temporarily weak position. We see here, according to the window, that the opponent is going to be winning this 29% of the time. So it could be that we roll something bad and suddenly the opponent is making something of his winning chances. So we wanted to prevent it. Now he's on the bar, we give the cube, we cash the point. Now we could get curious and ask ourselves, where are these 32% of the cases that the opponent can take? And here we have another tool. We look at the flat dice distribution, and we get here all of the sequences, everything that we can roll and everything that the opponent can roll, but they are ranked by how good the position is for us. And we notice the numbers here on the right side, and without getting into too much detail, we see that when the number is exactly 1.000, this means that after our next move and the opponent's next move, we cube and he cannot take. For example, if we roll double sixes, he shows us what we play with double sixes. And if the opponent enters without hitting us back, let's say that we roll double sixes and we hit this checker and escape the other two. The opponent enters with both checkers, we simply cube and he cannot take the cube. Does it make sense?
Yes, totally. Very interesting.
So we see that this result here of the opponent not being able to take the cube, this is more or less a bit below the half. If we look at all of the rolls from the best to the worst, and we go just below the middle, and we reach a point where we can double and the opponent cannot take. Everything below that, it means that he can take the cube if we can even cube. Let's look a bit lower here, and we see sequences that barely give us any advantage. If we roll something like a 5-2, and we hit, because that's the best thing to do, we don't want him to anchor on the 5, we hit with a 5-2, we get hit back, the game goes on, it's not clear who is better. Maybe we have a very tiny advantage, but we are not cubing. So because there are many cases like that, there are many cases like that, it's better to simply cube now and let the opponent give us a point, which Geert does. And I probably would have missed it and, falling on my head. That's very instructive. This is the things that we learn after we check it with the software. Inge, would you be cubing this or would you be playing on?
I think I would cube this, yes. Certainly after studying many of the reference positions in cube like a boss, because I have, black has 3 direct shots on a second checker. And it has a 3-point board, even if it is not, it doesn't have any priming value. It is a 3-point board.
Yes.
And white is strongly underdeveloped.
Well, you don't have to convince me that it's good enough to cube, but the question is, wouldn't you be tempted to play on for a gammon here?
Yes. That's true, yeah. I would be doubting between too good and double pass, yeah. So I think it's in general very difficult in this type of position to determine whether it is double pass or too good.
This is the point. So what would make you actually double this other than continuing to play? Let's say that you play Mark, and what is better than gammoning Mark when you are leading 2-0?
I think this, yeah, that's a good question.
It is.
I think it is not too good because black still has 2 checkers on the 24 point.
Okay, so because of these 2 checkers, this is the reason that you would give the cube.
Yeah, black has still a lot of work to do, which makes it less likely to be too good.
I get it. So I say, let's cube now and let's save the work. Let's save us the trouble from running all the way from the back.
Yes, in a certain sense,
But wait,
yes.
Here I'm going to make your life a bit more difficult, because the alternative to cubing now is not necessarily running all the way from the back. We might be tempted to just try for 1 roll or 2, and if it doesn't work, then we cube next time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Itzhak.
Backgammon is a difficult game. Okay, let's go to the next game then. Backgammon is a really difficult game. 3-0. And this is another short game that simply Geert is winning out of the gate. The game is sometimes so cruel. You can sit and make best move after best move after best move. But if the dice don't like you, I mean, you're just getting smashed. And Mark has a very disagreeable start for this match, even though he's playing nearly perfect backgammon. Also Geert does. But the dice have their own will. Let's see how this goes. So this time, actually, Mark manages to escape a checker right away to the safety of the midpoint. And Geert rolls an unimpressive 5-4. And here, basically, he takes coverage of the entire board with this roll. This checker that goes to the 20 is very important, not only because it prepares the advanced anchor, but also because it has an amazing view on the entire outfield. White has 6 checkers on the midpoint, and there is nothing he would like more than spread some builders onto his outfield with 2s, with 3s, with 4. And Geert is telling no, not so easily. I'm going to have a watching eye over anything you try to do. Anything you try to put there is a candidate for being hit, and I will be merciless. Even though I'm leading 3-0, my appetite knows no boundaries. So don't try me. And Mark doesn't listen because he rolls double 5s, which is an amazing roll. Amazing roll, because he hits a checker and brings 2 more builders. Very, very accurate. Very, very accurate.
Indeed. Yes, I think I would have played 2 checkers from the 8 points.
Absolutely. Me too. You're behind 3-0. What would you like more than attacking, putting him on the bar, and having 2 more board points? Because finally you only need 6, right? And getting 2 extra points, you're already halfway, right?
Yes.
I would go for it behind the 0-3, but not Mark. Mark is more disciplined, and there are some problems with attacking here. There are some problems, because first of all, it's challenging to attack with just 8 checkers. Secondly, the opponent already has a checker on the 5, so entering on the 5 with the other checker just finishes the attack then and there with an advanced anchor and an advantage. But these are explanations that I'm just giving like this because I see the computer evaluation. I would totally make the attacking play. And this requires more careful study to understand why this move is the correct one. I've seen it played many times.
Yeah, probably the computer also finds it more important to unstack the 13 point because it had, after all, 6 checkers on it, which is a lot.
Valid point. Valid point. So much so that he even sees just making the 3-point as a valid alternative to even hitting. You see? There is this move 30 with two checkers, which the computer evaluates as practically equal to the hitting play. Obviously, making this extra point on the board with 10 checkers in the zone is already a threat against two checkers. And because white already escaped one, he already has a clear advantage even without trying to attack. The problem is that when you attack, you also expose yourself a little bit. There is this blot here. We shouldn't underestimate it. So
you have a blot and a stacked point.
A blot and a stacked point, exactly. So it's an inflexible position. We might be getting closer to the truth here. And I really see how well you have been studying, Inge, because your explanations are absolutely illuminating.
Yeah, thank you, Itzhak. You are the master. I learned it from you.
You are breathing down my neck. And here we have a 4-3 from Geert. A 4-3 from the bar. So this is quite useful, actually. Geert is behind in the race. So he enters in the rear, the most rear point, trying to catch as many bad dices from Mark as possible, doing his best to prevent Mark from playing behind him into safety, and creating a very ambitious builder here on the 9-point. We see the contrast. Obviously, Geert has 3 exposed checkers, and Mark has only 1, and Mark still has a little bit of the better board. But when you are behind in the race, you really need to apply the brakes. You need to make it the hardest for the opponent to get past you. You want to maximize the points of contact. Even though the other play is still inside the black, I think that Geert chose here the most principled play. What do you say?
Yes, I think it's much stronger to put a checker on the 9-point than on the 10-point, because you have 10 possibilities of rolling dice with only 1-point difference. You have 2-1, 2-3, 3-4, 4-5, 5-6. You have 10 of these type of rolls, whereas you have 8 rolls with 2 ice difference between the dice. And you can already make you duplicate your own good rolls with that, because you with that same dice you can make good points with the checkers on the 8 and the 6 points.
You mean the duplication happens with the other play?
Yes, indeed. You will duplicate your good rolls. Like if you roll 5-3, now you can of course make the 5-point with it. But you can already also make the 3-point with it. So you create just more possibilities for yourself by putting the checker on the 9-point.
Good point. Good point. Yes, definitely, it's the more ambitious builder, but of course it's quite a risky play, because Mark can also recognize just how ambitious this checker is and start hitting the black checkers all over the place, so that Geert never has an opportunity to use this checker to build and maybe get it at all. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Mark's position is far from being organized. He still has many inflexible stacks, and if he starts attacking, things can also go the other way. Let's not forget that he already escaped the checker. So we see how this continues. And we see actually Mark simply jumping over the entire thing and trying to run home safely with a 6-3. He doesn't try to attack. He doesn't try to do anything dramatic, just trying to get home safely. However,
because he's ahead in the race. Yeah, he doesn't want to attack.
It's about to change really quickly with double 5s from Geert, which are always also advancing 20 pips in the race and sending Mark all the way back and making a board point with a strong position. The only reason that this number here is relatively low, the plus 0.265, is simply because of the score lead, but the position is quite impressive. Mark's position is a bit awkward. The point on the ace here simply deprives him of 2 active checkers. Mark's position is not very easy. He's now on the bar again after he thought he was escaping, which is the worst possible feeling, double 5s. And he rolls a 1-6. And here already it was a little bit safer to protect the race lead a little bit by staying back, not allowing Geert to catch up and make more points, and play simply a checker deep inside his board, preparing a point and unstacking the heavy 8-point. That was more precise. but
Yes.
it's not really red. It's not a blunder. It's just imprecise again. And
Mhm.
Geert is rolling another amazing roll that really there is very difficult to answer, attacking and priming at the same time. Mark
Yeah,
has
it's smashing. It's a smashing roll.
smashing roll. Mark has a bad structure. He rolls double five. He stays on the bar. And here comes finally a blunder from Geert for the first time in the game. This is game 3, and we haven't seen a blunder from Geert yet. We've
Yeah.
seen one from Mark. If any of us was playing, we would already have much higher blunder counts. Let's remember how good these players are. But here, of course, this is one of these moments where it tips the other way. Here, you don't want to cash a point. Notice how different this position is from the similar position in the last game. In the last game here, when we were taking the point, giving the cube that couldn't be accepted. Here, obviously, we still had 2 checkers all the way on the 24. Also, notice that white here had 15 checkers in play, 1 on the bar, true, but 15 checkers in play. The opposite of having checkers in play is burial, having checkers all the way to the ace point where they can never be used again. These checkers can only bang their head against the wall until it's time to bear off. They can never go back. They cannot even be taken. They're just stuck there, and you're playing with 13 checkers. So this is another weakness in Black's game in the previous game, and that's another motivation why you just take the point there. But here it's the opposite. Here at 3-0, here we have 15 checkers in play. Mark buried 2 checkers, and he had 13 checkers in play. He has 1 checker on the bar like before, but we're really not taking a risk playing on. We are leading in the race. We only have 1 checker to escape. He doesn't have to escape all the way from the 24. We don't have to hit any loose checker on the 4 and be hit back. We can play very safely the next roll. So in this case, we can just roll and see what happens.
Yeah, and also here there are more possibilities to make the 4 point, even just to hit on the 4 point. You have 4 builders here for Black for hitting on the 4 point, and even making the 4 point. It is like 12 rolls making the point, and then you have also double ones making the point, so which makes it 13. Double 3 is 14.
Double one at the expense of the 5 point.
Double ones. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, of course. Double ones would be at the expense of the 5 point. Yeah, double twos also make the point. Double threes also make the point. So yeah, there are just too many rolls making the 4 point even before white gets a chance to re-enter.
Also, there is another element. Even if we roll something that doesn't make that point, let's say that we roll something like a 5-4, and we just escape to the midpoint with a 18 pip race lead, and the opponent enters even with a 4-3 or something like that, or a 1-6, I'm not convinced that he can take the cube next turn.
Yeah.
Not convinced. It's really about playing on in the safety that if worse comes to worse, we can give it a cube next turn and the opponent won't be able to take it.
Mm.
If we think that the opponent could take a cube, or maybe we lose some part of the advantage or we cannot cube at all, then we would like to take a point here, which is what Geert does. He cashes a 4th point, he's leading 4-0, but he should have played on and tried to win a gammon. There are 36% chances to win a gammon, and apparently not much is likely to go wrong this turn.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. I might have doubled this as well. So.
I see. I probably wouldn't. No, this I would play on. I would definitely
play
on, especially if I would play something really, really strong like Mark, and I would really like to capitalize on my chances because you never know when he's going to come back. Mark is a super dangerous player. So you really want to make the most of your opportunities, but also you want to play accurately. You want to make the right decisions. And backgammon is a difficult game. There is nothing to say about it. It's a really hard game. Let's go to the next game, 4-0. And the next game also, these technically short games, most players simply plays the game very long because they don't recognize the moments where a cube can end the game. Sometimes the games look very, very far from a decision when you cube them. It looks like a game can go very long and many things can develop. But the strong players, sometimes they simply evaluate how likely they are to win, how likely they are to win or lose gammons. And they make these computations that simply end the game shortly. It can create some frustration at your observers, because it's like the observers would like to see a game. They would like to see all of the turns in the game, how it turns around, how the player who had the advantage is suddenly trailing. You want to see all of the developments of the game, and suddenly it just ended. It barely started. You didn't get to see anything. Just you see a point move on the score. It's kind of anticlimactic. But sometimes, yes, this is really the best way to play a game. And the doubling game, the doubling cube in the hands of people who know how to use it makes the game a lot sharper, a lot more interesting, a lot more based on calculation and evaluation, and a lot very far from the game played by most amateurs who only have a passing acquaintance with the doubling cube. We had some games in the championship by less experienced players, and you see that the game go on and on and on and on and on, and one player could have given the cube and gotten a point 20 times, but he keeps rolling, and that they both have very serious expressions, and everybody's looking at the game because it's the last game of the round. All of the games already ended before, and everybody wants to start a new round, but they're playing and they concentrate on the position, on the checker, and they completely forget that there is an element called the doubling cube. And then you see the grandmasters play, and really half of the games or more don't even reach the end of the first page. It's just play, 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 cube, game over, next game, next game, next game, next game. It looks completely a different game, like they're not playing backgammon, but some kind of a technical, calculative game where most of the action is actually not even on the board, but just in the heads of the players.
Yeah. I remember that game. Yeah, I was also wondering, don't they have a cube or so?
That game, we're not going to say who the players were, but if you are watching this, you know who you are, but probably you still don't get it that it was you. You probably didn't even notice the people watching you as you were playing. That's fine. That's not a problem. Let's continue. This is game 4, if you can call it even a game. It's like, back in the day, when I was learning this game, I learned it together with a lady that I was married to. And whenever we reached a situation when one player cubes for the first time from the center and the other player couldn't take it, we wouldn't call it a game. We would call it an accident. It only became a game if a cube was offered and accepted. Then it's a game, because it's two players agreed that this position is worth playing. Sometimes one player gets all of the great dice, the other player is kind of suffering, waiting on the bar, doesn't roll well, and the cube is offered and says, no, just take the point, I don't want to play that. That's an accident, that's not a game.
Yeah.
So in this match so far, we have almost nothing but accidents except for the first game. So let's watch this next accident play out. All right, 3-2, an opening roll by Geert. We've seen this one before, except that it was Mark who rolled the 3-2, and also Geert played it in the most standard way, playing 3 from the back, playing 2 from the midpoint, getting the back checkers moving before White has a threatening position, unstacking a heavy point on the 13, preparing to build more points on his side of the board, a very useful opening roll. And just like it happened before, but on the other way, this time it is Mark's turn to answer with a soul-crushing double 2s, making the strong board point, preparing the 11, bringing 2 more checkers to the zone, and stacking 2 heavy points. I begin to feel a little bit like a football commentator, but it's so much fun to commentate.
Yeah, it is.
So let's continue. Except that this time, when Mark has this reply roll, it is more dangerous than it was on the other way, because Mark is trailing on the score. He's behind 0-4. He's in a desperate need for points. So this is already a very major step towards a cube. Mark is already quite close to a cube, believe it or not, already with this opening roll for him. And again, we see Geert entering unconvincingly. This is a dilemma. What do you do? Do you anchor on the 24? Watching as White's game developed, but you are standing at the back waiting to be primed? Or do you enter on the 5 point, hoping to anchor them, but exposing your neck to a devastating attack before you even had a chance to start the game? Very hard decision. Very hard decision. What do you say about this?
Yeah, indeed. You in fact, you do not want to re-enter on the 24 point and be there with your 2 back checkers on the 24. However, now White has 10 checkers in the zone, and they can with 3 checkers which can hit on the 20 point. and white already has the stronger board, so it is the more careful play to.
A sad decision. Either way you play it, it's a really, really sad decision. Speaking from the dynamics of the game, it's like, okay, fine, I'm leading 4-0, I'm sitting with this big cigar, and I'm ready to pay something back. You're already mentally preparing to hand back, trying to hand the minimal amount of points from this game, because obviously it's not going your way. You want to protect your lead. You're leading 4-0. This game started awfully. The 5-1 is like the last thing you want to see. It's almost as bad as staying on the bar. A terrible roll. You are not pleased, no matter how you play it. And yeah, I mean, in Mark's place, I would offer a cube here before rolling.
Okay, yeah, why not?
Behind 4-0. Because I'm 4-0, I would give a cube here for sure. I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a cube fanatic. Okay.
So what does XG think about the cube in that position?
It's a double
take. Yeah.
Yes, it's a correct cube.
Yeah.
But by a milli hair follicle.
Yeah.
It's very, very close. It's a borderline cube, no cube. It's only a cube because you are leading because you are behind in the score 0-4. You are way back. You want to catch up, and you recognize that this is a golden opportunity. As we covered before, a very similar position when the score was more balanced. We've seen that without this extra element of trailing heavily in the score, this position still is not quite a cube, mostly because white has not really moved from the 24. But with such a strong build-up and with black stuck on the 24 himself, when you are trailing in the score, you are really looking for opportunities to come back. I would cube. I would personally cube. Would you cube this as well?
At this score, I would certainly consider it. Yes.
Would consider it. I believe that Mark also did, even though I wasn't watching the game. There is also some other merit to watching games, because games are timed. And sometimes you can get more information by watching it and by seeing how they were reacting, what they were thinking about, how long they were thinking about certain decisions, how the times were on the clocks. But what I remember is that both players played pretty smart with the clock, and neither of them reached a time trouble. They all had enough times throughout the match. So there was never a decision that had to be hurried or rushed. They had sufficient time to think, even though the match was long and it had many games, right?
Yeah.
That's what I remember, because I saw really near the end of the match, and they still had several minutes, both of them.
Yeah, and which is quite unlike them, because normally they always play very slowly in the beginning, and then in the end they need to rush.
Maybe they were being careful because they were playing each other.
Yeah.
Geert played against me, and he had a huge deficit on the clock throughout the match. Obviously, these people are very experienced, and they generally play quite well, even when they don't have a lot of time. But it wasn't the case in this one. And Mark rolls a beautiful 3-1, making the 5 point. This roll is super strong, no matter where black entered on the previous game move. If black entered on the 5, he would be on the bar now. It's still not difficult to enter. And in any case, even though he entered on the ace, his position is still quite miserable, but he rolls amazingly well now. And suddenly double threes keeps him strongly in the game, because now he also has attacking and priming potential. This roll was a gift. I don't think that Geert could survive another mediocre roll.
No, that's true. But this is a great roll.
It's really a great.
He immediately has also a 3-point board, and with priming value, which it's great roll.
It is a great roll, yes. Now, there is something else to say for the cube last turn. It is true that Geert rolled really well, but if I put myself in Mark's shoes, this is a position that I already want to play with the cube on 2. I mean, you wouldn't keep this position, but this position would be very rich, probably in gammons, because of the primes, because of the attempts to come out and escape and then be hit and then put on the bar. It's going to be probably, it's going to have some presence of gammons. And the thing is that Geert will not really be able to recube, to fold very easily, as he's already leading 4-0. So, you also kind of block access to the cube. When the cube is in the center, there would be moments that Geert would be tempted to cube and try to win a gammon or try to for anything. But when the cube is already on 2, that would be quite a deterrent. So it's also, the cube was also, it had also a preventive value.
Yeah.
This is something that is quite easy to overlook. All right, let's continue here. 3-2. 3-2, obviously, Mark has to take a big risk here and come to the 21 point. At some point, these checkers need to start moving. He tries to extricate them. He still has the better front position. Notice that his structure has fewer gaps, only a gap on the bar point, and Geert has a gap on the 7, a gap on the 4. It might be easier to escape. So this roll of a 3 is a great opportunity to escape. Notice that the 2 can be played safely on the other side of the board, so you don't have vulnerabilities on both sides. You're only vulnerable on Geert's side of the board, where you can hit back and cost Geert quite dearly, and you're not vulnerable at all on your side. However, Geert rolls really, really well, makes a 4th board point, which is super powerful, and Mark stays on the bar. Now, if the cube, if the score was a little bit different, already we could have been thinking about cubes in Geert's position, but not when you are leading 4-0 and you are also stuck behind the prime. However, it's clear that Geert is clearly leading here. Better board, the initiative, the checker on the bar. Let's see how this continues. Double fours. What do you think about this roll? How do you like it?
The roll itself.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate because of the 2 checkers, which are still on the 24 points. It's not favorable for his timing.
Yeah, this roll is a double-edged sword. On one hand, obviously, you want to advance on the race and take the advantage that the opponent is on the bar to forward, to advance on the race, forward your racing chances. And also, it's nice to put a second checker on the bar without any risk, because you're not exposing anything inside your board. However, you're compromising your structure. You're losing your 5 points, and probably you are going to win a gammon more often, but you're going to win fewer games. There will be more cases where the open 5 point is going to cost you.
Yes, and you lose on equity because you lose priming value.
You lose priming value, but you are also gaining, in some sense, you are gaining time because you put your opponent on the bar and he has to put 2 checkers in. And notice that you still have many checkers inside your own outfield that would permit you to make the remaining points.
That's true.
Back check. It is still not quite critical to escape your back checkers, but let's say that it's beginning to get close. You're beginning to feel slightly uncomfortable about these back checkers, and you will feel more uncomfortable if white starts entering and forcing you to hit more, especially if you are forced to hit loose, and then you can really get stuck in the back.
Yeah.
And it can really backfire. But for now, I believe that for now, the merit and the bad aspects pretty much balance each other.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really kind of a mixed feeling. It alters the character of the position, but overall, we see also that the number didn't really change. Notice it was plus 370, it is still plus 370, 79, the same value, but it's a different type of position already.
Yeah.
And Mark doesn't disappoint, and he does enter a checker in the best place for himself. He enters a checker when it is less accessible. On the 5, it's easier to step over. On the 23, not only that it's harder, fewer numbers hit, but also the 6 that you want to hit is the 6 that you also need to escape. The 6 is badly duplicated. And here, Mark decides, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Entering, yes, I know, because it's the final position. Yes, he entered the checker and now double threes. Double threes, and apparently hitting the checker here was not, no, hitting was correct. Why this move is not accurate? Can you see this, Inge? You see what's the problem with this move?
So 13-10 with only 1 checkers, and then from 9 to 6, and then hitting on the 2. Yeah, so instead of the playing down the 2 checkers from the 13 point, it had to be only 1 checker from the 13 point and playing 9 to 6.
Yeah, what do you make of it? Why is this the inferior play? Let's look at the final positions. This is the play that was chosen by Geert. Maybe it's easy to see when we look at the final position, and the computer likes this move better. This move simply keeps another checker on the 13, but moves the checker from the 9 to the 6. This is the only difference. Everything is the same. You use 2 of the 3s. This is the initial position. No, you use 2 of the 3s to hit. This you do in any case. You bring a checker from the 13, and the only question is, do you move the other checker from the 13, or do you play 9 to 6? Now notice that if you move both checkers to the 10, like Geert did, you successfully block double fives from the bar, which is great.
Yeah.
However, the computer likes the other play better. Why do you think that is? If you are not sure, I will tell you what I think.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Well, my opinion is because you already hit a checker loose on the 2. I mean, it's really nice to block double fives, but double fives are just one roll. The opponent has 2 checkers on the bar, and if he rolls anything other than double 5, I mean, in any case, he's not doing so well. But the real point is that you hit loose on the 2. And this is really a simple thing that it's really easy to miss. And again, it's easy to miss because the character of the position has changed. These doubles, these really nice rolls that are doubles, sometimes they create changes on the position. And if you evaluate the position according to the current position, you can miss details. But if you evaluate the position with mind of what you rolled and the changes that you make in the position, then you can reach a certain understanding. I want to draw a comparison to the blunder that we saw from Marco.
I think with putting the checker from the 9 point on the 6 point, you create a direct cover for the hit checker on the 2 point.
Yeah, this is the point. Good answer. But I want to tie it together. When we saw here the double sixes for Mark on game 1, Mark was making a very reasonable position, a very reasonable decision for the initial position before the roll. Because when you have we have 2 checkers on the 24, you do want to escape them, and ideally you would hit a checker. But once you look at the final position, you're like, wait a minute, if I can already escape, what is the best way to play the other sixes? Maybe it's not the usual one. You need to think with the end position in mind, not with the starting position in mind. And the same thing happens here. Game 5, the same thing happens here. Not this one, or this game is more blunderish. The next one, we're going to reach it. But here, when you look before you roll double threes, and yes, obviously you're threatened by certain rolls by the opponent and you don't want him to roll 5. But if you know that you're already hitting loose on the 2, now you should think, okay, I want to have a second number that covers it. Yes, because with Geert's move, he can only cover if he rolls a direct 5. And with the correct move, it is true that optically the checker on the 13 is kind of vulnerable and it looks scary, but if you notice, no roll by white can ever hit it because white has 2 on the bar. And what you want to be able to cover this checker on the 2, so you bring another checker to cover it. You can cover with 5s and you can cover with 4s. Not a huge difference, but yes, this is an inaccuracy that also for me it was a bit hard to spot. I was talking a little bit earlier about how the big doubles transform, and you should be looking at the end, and you immediately saw the solution. And your solution, of course, is correct. And here, Mark rolls and enters with both checkers, putting black on the bar, and suddenly black is in trouble. Black is in trouble because there is a third checker stuck. White is no longer on the bar. White is threatening to escape. Black stays on the bar a quarter of the time, but not this one. This one he actually manages to enter. He manages to enter and put the checker up. However, Mark doubles and Geert drops, which is quite dramatic. What a reversal. What a reversal. What do you think about this?
About this position, whether it would be a double pass or too good.
I mean, no. I mean, the reversal. I mean, put yourself in Geert's shoes. You are attacking, you are winning, you are putting 2 checkers on the bar, you have a 4-board point, you are celebrating, you are going to close him out. Suddenly, your opponent enters and puts you on the bar, no problem, you re-enter, but then he cubes and you don't take. What's going on?
Yeah, he cannot take because he has 3 checkers back and white only has 2 checkers back. And in addition, white has a direct shot on the checker on the 16 point.
The difference, the story here is even scarier than what you say. Because if you say, okay, we've seen many positions when we have 3 back and the opponent has 2 back. It's also true that Geert has the better board. He shouldn't be afraid of being hit, right? He can easily enter. That's not the problem. He can re-enter. He can hit back. That can hurt, right? In normal positions, you wouldn't even think about a cube. But this is not a normal position. There is something that is deeply abnormal about this position. It's not a normal position.
Deeply abnormal.
Abnormal. Deeply. When I say the word deeply, I say it in a few meanings, more meaning than one. It's a hint. This word deeply. It's a hint. It's a big hint. Okay, I will explain this. The real reason that this is such a dramatic turnaround, let's just switch back a couple of moves. I mean, this game changed so drastically. Most players don't understand what is likely to happen next. So they wouldn't understand how come a moment ago you were attacking, you were throwing swords and bayonets to your opponent, and he was kind of crouching, hoping to enter from the bar, having a second checker on the bar, terrible stuff. Suddenly, they entered. They didn't hit anything. I mean, they hit a tiny checker. The checker came in. It's not hard to come in against the 3-point board. So the opponent came in, and now you cube? And wait a minute, you cube and the opponent drops? And you look at the numbers, you say, not only that he dropped, if he took it, it would be a tremendous blunder. What happened? Right? And this really deserves an explanation. The thing is, we were talking in previous games about active checkers, checkers in play. And here, because he was attacking, Black was creating a number of deep points, the ace point, the 3-point, the 4-point. All of these checkers are out of play. They are not playing. Black doesn't have flexibility. He has 9 checkers to play with. And this is a tragedy because White is still playing with 15 checkers. And if Black continues this game, he will feel the full fury of the White army rolling against him, priming him, attacking him. 2 checkers out of 24. The White front position is too strong. The problem is not that you cannot enter from the bar. The problem is how are you going to make the trip around the board with 3 or 4 checkers when you don't have any backup, you don't have the midpoint, you don't have an outfield, you have 6 checkers that don't play anymore.
Yeah, he has no timing left. Yeah.
No timing left. This is the thing. Black is leading in the race, but this is his tragedy. Even if let's say that let's give White a role like 2-1, a very pathetic role that doesn't do a lot. And let's say that Black is rolling 6-4 and he manages to anchor on the bar point. Still, you need to escape from there, and it's not easy. And nobody promises to you that you get such amazing rolls. The position is problematic. Actually, White is winning this 3/4 of the time. 1/4 of the time, it's a gammon. And obviously, Black has a great lead. So this is a big blunder to take this kind of a position. I know that many players have difficulty evaluating and understanding positions like that. Cubes come early, drops come early. And if we remember that we said about these double 4s, that it was a double-edged sword, because double 4s now force the hand of Black. Before double 4s, the position was still relatively flexible. It could go either way. The double 4s here meant that either you win by attacking, or at least you manage to escape something from the back, or you just cannot take a cube. You just lose. By destabilizing your position here, by losing the 5-point and going to the 8, to the ace point, this was a highly committal move. It was the best move, but there was really nothing else to do. And you commit to the attacking plan. If the attack fails, you better give away a point, or otherwise things can get worse quite quickly. And
the double 4s, it really killed Black because he had to change points from 20 to 24.
Double 4s didn't kill Black, of course not. He was still attacking, but it sowed the seeds of what happened later.
Okay.
It didn't kill Black in itself, but it created a type of game where attacking or escaping quickly became critical. It wasn't critical before.
Yeah.
A couple of good rolls, this can go the other way really, really well. Now, this is the beauty, because we are watching a game between 2 grandmasters, and the presence of the cube deprives us of many stories that the position could tell if the game was allowed to continue. This is a commentary on a game like that can explain many things here that wouldn't be clear. And I'm trying to describe what could happen otherwise, but sometimes you need to see it, you need to experience it in order to be able to identify these cubes and understand that they need to be passed when it happens in your own games. This really takes some experience. Okay, let's go to the next one. What do you say?
Yes, let's do that. It was interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. How long has this conversation been going? It's quite long.
Indeed. Like, 1 hour and 15 minutes already.
Inside the video or before we started the video?
Inside the video. Yeah,
Wow,
we started like around 19:30.
Wow. So listen, this game actually is rich. I see already in the first page, this begins to look more like a human game and not like a crazy otherworldly interstellar level game. We see 3 reds. It begins to look more normal. 3 blunders, 2 by Mark, 1 by Geert, 1 green, 2 greens by Geert. Must have been quite a difficult game. Let's make it the last game of this session and maybe record a second session. What do you say?
Yes, that's a very good idea.
Good idea, so that we don't sit all night.
Yeah, okay, good.
And more importantly, that you guys don't sit there all night with these one videos. Okay, game 5, Geert leading 4-1, Geert starting with a 5-4. We already discussed this move, so I'm not going to do it now. And this time Mark is answering with a 4-3, a very usual reply. You try to drive black off of the ambitious 20 point or the 5 point. You try to make it yourself, and you bring a backup checker trying to cover it. Sometimes black is going to roll 5-4 again and just put 2 checkers on the bar, but otherwise you are simply unburdening or unstacking this heavy 13 point. Very good opening play by both players. And Geert, it's true that he's entering, but he's failing to hit either of the checkers. He simply rolls a 4-6 and simply skips the entire thing, tries to escape. And white, having nothing better to do at this point, he simply hits on the ace point, but covers the key and most important 5 point. So he enjoys a very clear advantage here. Apparently, the computer even recommended that he brings another checker from the midpoint instead of hitting. Quite an interesting alternative, but nobody can be blamed for starting an attack and unstacking the 6 point, especially when you are still looking for points. You are behind 1-4 in the match. You would like to attack, put the player on the bar, having entered awkwardly, give an early cube, win a gammon, and jump into the lead.
Yeah, and white has the stronger board at this moment.
Absolutely, definitely has the momentum. However, Geert kills the momentum by rolling a 6-3 and escaping into an ambitious point of his own, the 9 point, where he wants to use this checker in order to help him unstack one of his own heavy points, either the 13 or the 8 or the 6. All of these points can make useful point with this new checker on the 9. Like you pointed out before, it's a very useful one. And now we see Mark making the first blunder of the game, which is quite shocking for most of the viewers. Commentary?
Well, it's not unusual to jump over that attacking structure of black.
Correct.
But the computer seems to completely disagree with that and consider it as a blunder and would hit the blot in white's home board.
Absolutely.
Which is understandable, because by hitting that blot on the 3 point, you take away black's half of the row half of next row of black, and thus preventing black from making a point in its own board.
Yeah, this is the thing. First of all, it neutralizes the black's potential of making a point. However, it is quite tricky to see this kind of a hitting play, which is the correct play, because it's not only that you hit loose, you have 2 blots inside your board.
Yeah.
The key to understanding, it's really, first of all, that white has the better board already. Second, that white is obviously chasing because he's trailing in the score. And like you said, it's a preventive play. You don't want black to develop his position. Black has many useful roles here that makes his position less stacked. And with more points, almost everything will make a new point here. The checkers are positioned very well. So you don't want this to happen, even if the price is to have another checker sent back. For the moment, the front position of black is still not impressive. And the more checkers you get back, the more chances you have also to disrupt black's play. So the only way to maintain an advantage here is to keep black on the bar and not helping organize. Obviously, black can roll something like double aces or double threes, which would be incredibly amazing for him, but it's only 2 rolls out of many. So that doesn't happen. We see Mark escape the board, which is an understandable move, but simply not the most accurate. Backgammon is also a little bit of a misleading game. When we play backgammon, when we become like experienced and good, we have this impression that it's a really easy and simple game. Most of the plays are obvious. We have solutions for everything, especially as we become stronger. We know that we want to escape the opponent's board. We want to lead in the race. We want to make points. We want to hit, and we kind of sleepwalk our way through the game. And once every 50 or 100 or 25 rolls, suddenly there is opportunity to do something unusual. And if you are not especially alert, it's really easy to miss. Here, hitting a second checker inside your board, opening a second blot, is an unusual play. There are special reasons to make it that are very, very specific to a position. And if you are not 100% alert, it's really easy to miss. One thing that differentiates grandmasters is that they tend not to miss these plays, but here for once, Mark does miss it by escaping a checker.
Yeah, which is quite unlike Mark.
Yeah, definitely, it's unlike them. This is we see that also in the level of their play. So when it happens, it's unusual, and we of course point it out. And he simply gave Geert the opportunity of doing exactly the same and escaping his own checker. And Geert should be quite happy with this development. Geert is leading 4-1. He wants a quiet game without too much clashes, without too much drama and hits. He wants to escape, especially because he has the weaker board, and he runs. But unluckily for him, Mark does manage to hit that useful checker on the 9 point.
Yeah.
Geert enters with a very useful double fours, hitting, entering, hitting, making the board point, all of the squares checked, all of the good things that he wanted to do happen. And we see Mark simply entering with a very awkward roll for him, because obviously he rolls 1-4, but he can only enter with 1. He cannot enter with 4. Very often it happens that when you have to enter from the bar and you only have one option of entering, the number that you couldn't enter with is a bit awkward to play. He could still hit a second checker inside his own board like he did before. He could do that, but there are differences already, because by now, Black also has a good board with a solid point. And not only that he has 2 points inside his, 2 blots inside his board, he will have 5 boards, and really everywhere. He will have blots in every quadrant of the board. Very awkward, very vulnerable, so not to be recommended. A useful rule of thumb is that generally it is true that you like hitting loose on the next point that you want to make inside your board. Mark really wants to make the 4 point, but many times if by hitting you also break your 8 points, you think twice about it. And Mark does. He doesn't hit, which is correctly, but the roll is kind of uncomfortable to play. Mark positions his other blot here at really a distance of 6 from Geert's blot here on the 21. 6s are the easiest to roll. These are the numbers that you enjoy rolling more, especially when they are rolled well. That's quite awkward for Mark. Not enjoyable. And Geert here is rolling a 4-3. And it looks like, okay, this is give a comment about this before I speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is difficult now. Of course, by playing, by making the 5 points, Geert leaves 3 direct shots to be hit on the 21 point and the fly shot. It does make the 4 point, yes. However, if he plays the computer's suggestion 21-14, he also leaves a direct shot.
Correct.
Every 2 will hit. However, for white to hit the checker on the 9 point, white will need also a 6-2, because 3-5 doesn't work.
Correct. Double 4s.
Yeah, or double 4s. With a double 4, you would play
You need to check
17-21 and then hit on the 9. Yeah.
No, the numbers will go the other way.
Pardon?
By the time it will be white's play, the numbers will go the other way, so the move will not be 17-21, but 8-4.
Yeah, that's true.
But yes, double fours will be devastating, but it's only one roll.
Yeah.
The thing is, yeah, I mean, you are analyzing it correctly, you are explaining it correctly, but we need to understand this move in two different ways. And I think that one more compelling argument to make here is that making the 5 point makes the game a lot sharper, because you're making a very powerful third board point, but you're also exposed to many rolls that not only hit you on the 21, but also point on your head. Yes, white has rolls that make a point on the 21, or alternatively hit and then run to cover the 24.
Yeah.
Okay? Double aces, double twos, 4-2, 4-6, 2-6. All of these rolls make the 21 point or the 4 point. And then, of course, you have to add double threes, 6-3, 4-3, 2-3 that make the ace point and put you on the bar. So the game becomes a lot more concrete, much more threatening, many more attacks. Both ways, because you also make your own 5 points. Now, when you're leading 4-1, you don't want a game that is very gammonish. You want a game that is very calm. You want a game that is non-confrontational. And there is nothing more non-confrontational than just simply and quietly running a checker outside the zone of attack as far as you can go with the 4-3, just saying, no, thank you. I would rather have 2-point boards and not 3-point boards, not so many attacks, not so many gammons. I don't want to see a cube appearing on the board because there is an attack going on. So it's like kind of the wrong direction when you are leading 4-1. However, there is another thing that I'm seeing here. When I look here at the analysis of the computer, by the way, watch the gammon numbers. Gammon numbers go from 8 to 16 for black and from 8 to 14 for white. So almost double the number of gammons, yeah, with the wrong play. We see that. But now chances are also better. Apparently, there is a vulnerability. There is a vulnerability for staying on the 21 because, yes, you make the 5, which is a good thing. But you make the 5 and your position is still a bit awkward. I mean, if you look at this position after you make the 5, it's not flexible. You still have the stacks.
Yeah.
On the other hand, white has a much more flexible position, and you are the first who is getting attacked. You are getting attacked immediately with all of these attacking rolls. So apparently you win a bit less. You are not quite ready for this confrontation. You cannot just, stand there like the bully, and you cannot still afford to say to your opponent, you go and give the first strike,
Yeah.
Basically, this is what Geert is doing. You say, I'm making the 5 point, come and hit me,
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather skip, I'd rather go and get myself some pizza, That's apparently the better move here.
Yeah, but it's always tempting to make the 5.
Yeah, it is tempting, of course.
Yeah.
And also you make the 5, and again, we come back to our previous discussion. You think I'm making the 5, you don't think what the position looks like after I make the 5. This stack on the 6, you see the 5 checkers there on the 6. You don't look at that because you are concentrated on making the 5. Anyway, running away was apparently more prudent. And we see, of course, Mark rolling one of his good numbers. Finally, we didn't count all of these good numbers. Double aces, double twos, right? Double fours, that was 3 numbers. Then all of the 6-2, 6-4, and 4-2, that's 9 numbers. And then you have 6-3, 4-3, 2-3, that's 15 numbers that hit and make a third point. That's almost half the rolls.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then we have to add to this 6-1 and 5-2 that hit in the outfield. That's 19 rolls that are catastrophic. You don't want to see them.
Yeah.
That's why it was a blunder. Yeah, Mark rolls one of them. And Geert comes in and managed to clear the blot. So he's not doing too badly either. And here comes the last blunder of the first page with double threes. Double threes, I mean, it's really hard to imagine how this could be a blunder, right?
Yeah, I think because white already has 2 checkers on the 1 point, it has already a blitzing position. And when you have a blitzing position, you make a blitzing move, which in this position would be 2 checkers from the 8 to the 2 and hitting there.
Yeah,
I think that is the reason.
Really big one. It's a really big one. I think that it's a big one also for tactical reasons. I'm going to check something quick here. Yeah, it's can you understand what I was checking?
No, the dice distribution?
No, I did it very quickly and very discreetly. And if this video wasn't being recorded, it would be quite hard to understand what I did, but I'm going to explain it. This is a tactical decision in a large part. It's a little bit like the previous position, but the other way, because here it is Mark making a point and saying to Black, why don't you strike first? Because Black would love to use some of these checkers here inside his board to hit loose. If he cannot escape a checker cleanly, he would be happy to do that. But there is a more immediate concern. You notice that with the best play, when you are making the 2-point, Black is going to dance a lot of the time. And if you are playing white and you are behind 1-4, you would be giving a cube. Right?
Yeah.
We go into a dice distribution after the correct move. And we see that we see this number here. Whenever Black cannot come from the bar, you see all of these rolls that say cannot move, 16 rolls out of 36. The equity is 0.868, which normally translates into double take.
Okay.
Right? So 1/2 of the time you give yourself a beautiful cube and you're playing to win gammons.
I see. Right? Yes. Yeah.
You're playing to win gammons. You have 14 checkers in the attack, potentially, after a dance. You have everything to play for to catch up on the score. So this is a practical opportunity. And you don't have exactly enough checkers to play a priming game because you already buried 2 of them. So it's less convincing to make the bar point, and you give Black an opportunity to attack.
Yes, indeed. And it is like Michi says, once Michi asked, with what purpose do you move your checkers over the board? What would your answer be?
Yes. You mean in this position?
No, just in any position. With what purpose are you moving your checkers over the board?
Well, but purposes are not specific to positions.
No. It was just a general remark. I was thinking like, yeah, you want to win the race and get them out. But he said, no. You move your checkers in a way that you can enter, that you can ship the cube.
Oh, in this sense. Yeah, I mean, obviously, in this position, it is absolutely true. You have to consider the cube. And now I'm going to show you what I was checking before. Because here on the right side, we see the difference in the plays. You see the correct place gets 0.43, and then the weaker play gets 0.12.
Yeah.
Right? And the difference is over 300 millipoints, which is big. You see? And I'm asking myself, how much of this difference is due to the fact that the cube might be coming? Because imagine if one play allows you to cube very often and the other play doesn't, okay, then the cube is a big part of the difference.
Yeah, of course, yes.
These numbers here are called cube-full equities. Again, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I propose that you watch that other video about equities from the video description. We discussed it before. So we now assume that you have watched this one already and you come back to our video currently, so we can speak about cube-full equities that are explained in the other videos. So these numbers here are cube-full. Now, if I go over this number, you see that it gives me the chances to win the game and lose it. But then at the end, it gives me the cubeless equity. You see that? Cubeless equity means, of course, what would be my equity if the cube was not in play and I just had to play this game to the end without ever cubing. You see that the number is very different.
Yeah.
185 is much smaller. And the other move is close to 0.
Yeah.
It's still a big blunder, but notice that it's a much smaller blunder. The difference between these two numbers is 168 milli. And here the difference is double, 312 milli. So a big reason of why this is a blunder is because exactly a cube is coming almost half of the time when Black doesn't enter. It's a really powerful cube for somebody who heavily trails in the score. So this was an opportunity, at least half of the time, to give a really powerful cube to Geert. Tactical, immediate reason.
Indeed.
Okay, let's go on. So indeed, Black simply takes the opportunity of having been afforded a breath and strikes first with a beautiful roll of 5-4. I believe that Black would hit you with any 5. No matter 5 what.
Of course, yes.
Checker like this, because you need to unload. These checkers need to play. You have 10 checkers inside your board, and they are standing there like doormans in a bar or something like that, and they need to see some action. They're not
But 5-4.
They need
to participate in the game.
5-4 is a dream roll. Only probably better is 2-6. 2-6 you would really love rolling here. But if you didn't get 2-6, maybe double fives also. You would like double fives. But short of that, probably the next best is 5-4, I suppose. 5-4 hitting and Mark entering, not exactly the way he wanted maybe, but still entering. And we see here Geert using double aces to hit another checker. And
yeah, that's, yeah.
What?
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Changing points from 4 to 2 is the computer suggestion. I think what I would have done was playing from 6 to 4 and move the checker from the 23 to the 21 to see daylight.
Yeah, let's check both of these moves that looks reasonable. Seeing daylights and diversifying the checkers on the 6, they both look reasonable. The computer marks them as blunders, but he didn't analyze them thoroughly. So let's give a similar level of analysis, just that we can speak about it with some understanding of how the computer sees it. And apparently the computer doesn't really like these moves.
Yeah.
Doesn't like these moves because obviously they allow Mark to attack. It's really about momentum. It's really about momentum, but let's say that you would love to roll your double twos and just make a 5th point on the head of Mark, right?
Yeah.
In this position, when you roll double aces, yeah, I mean, you have to hit here because it's a question of who hits first. And there is a real danger to be hit by Mark because, again, if you answer ineffectively after being hit, you get cubed. You get cubed because Mark is behind on the score. So you want to push the cube farther away. And you have the best board, so you better make something of it. Many of the rolls would be pointing on your head. You see that? No matter where the black...
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Many rolls would be pointing on his head. And if he doesn't enter, that would be a very difficult cube to take when you are leading 4-1. So you have to hit. The only problem is because what you hold, hitting comes at a price. Either you expose a blot, like we see Geert doing here, or you completely kill your structure. This is a very ugly structure to hit with. I mean, 2 points on the 6 and the 5, 2 deep points on the 2 and the ace, a very ugly bold spot in the middle at the 3 and 4 with no hair is going to grow. It looks ugly. And you don't enjoy, I mean, structurally, a strong player doesn't enjoy playing a move like that. It looks ugly, but unfortunately, sometimes you have to be practical, and exposing the blot is the last thing you want to do. You don't want a second checker sent back.
Yeah, especially since the race is close, so you do not want to get really behind.
It's not so much the race as the attack. The race will kill you in 10 more rolls. The attack will kill you next roll with the cube that you cannot take.
Yeah.
You see that? You get hit from the bar, you dance, you cannot take the cube.
That's true. Yeah.
You enter badly, you take the cube.
Yeah.
But it's a cube that you could prevent by not leaving the blot.
Yeah.
So here, the correct move is ugly. But hitting and exposing a blot is simply too dangerous. It's simply too dangerous. The reason this is not a blunder is that if you are not getting hit, you did play the best move. If you know for a fact that you are not getting hit, then yes, you enjoy the best of all worlds. You have time to escape, to maybe bring more checkers down, maybe to cover the blot. You know, good things can happen, but it's dangerous. So you make the ugly move. Frankly, I believe I would play like Geert. I'm really good in explaining it once I have XG by my side. Unfortunately, I don't get this privilege in my own tournament games.
Yeah, of course, they are wonderful players. It's always...
When it comes to explaining it from a protected position, really, I'm doing a great job. All right, let's look how this continued. And we see here 3-4, and Mark enters and escapes, of course. Geert would love to hit, but he consoles himself by simply making a 5th board point. 5th board point is quite dangerous. It's a really great deterrent, and it forces White to watch his step, to play very carefully, no longer hitting loose, and no longer leaving stray blots in places where they can be hit. He has to be a lot more disciplined in his game. However, white is really close to a cube. Why is it close to a cube?
Because it reaches what Mark also calls a defined position. He escaped all its checkers and is having blitzing and priming value.
Okay, this is a good explanation. This is true. White is close to escaping his last checker if he rolls right, and he has a blitzing and priming value. And we need to add to that black is struggling already with some the beginning of inflexibility in his position because he already has 10 checkers buried inside his board that will never play again. Black might be facing very soon the same kind of difficulties that didn't allow him to take the cube a couple of games back.
Yeah,
actually, it was the last game, I think, no? Yes, it was the last game.
Yeah.
The last game we saw here, this cube that couldn't be taken. Notice also all of these checkers on the board, checkers back that cannot escape. It was 3 of them, but sometimes 1 is enough.
Yeah.
We still have a big lead, 4-1. So yes, this is the added element. We are looking here at the 6-2, making the 5th point. That's the good news. The bad news is, like you said, white is escaping very soon. Blitzing quality, priming quality, but also inflexibility from black. So a cube might be coming quite soon. And we see here, white escaping with the 4-1, which means that now black has to roll really well. He doesn't. So this is a classical case. Okay, I want you to speak about this cube action before I do.
Yeah, well, here white has escaped his back checkers and owns the 7 and 8 points. So that means that for clearing the 13 point, white now has 2 practical landing points and has only 3 checkers left on the 13 point. Therefore, and black has only 1 vulnerable blot in his board. So yeah, there are not that many bad rolls white can have here as well.
But you are missing something really important.
Okay.
All of this discussion about how easy it is to come from the midpoint, this is a discussion of holding games. And this is relevant to a position where you have a clear lead in the race and you want to cube because of the race lead. Here, you have a little bit of a race lead. You are 104 over 106, 6 pips ahead in a long race. In itself, that's really far from a cube. It is true that you can escape, but the story is very different. The story is that 16 of your rolls point on the head of black. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah.
Those rolls also gain something in the race, but also it's not sure that black enters. And if black enters without hitting back, let's suppose that white rolls a 4-2, and then of course black can hit back, right?
Yeah, with a 2-6, for example.
If he doesn't hit back, he couldn't take the cube next turn.
Yeah, of course.
If he entered. However, it's not sure that this is going to happen because there are also 5s and 6s. Now, to be clear, double 5s and double 6s are likely to lose the market on the race.
Yeah.
Double 5s and double 6s might not allow black to take for a different reason. Also, 6-5 is a very big racing roll, and if black's roll small, it will be a combination of vulnerable and behind in the race, so also he wouldn't be able to take the cube. Yeah. And I can say the same thing about 5-4 maybe. So this means that white is really likely to not being able to get a take next turn with some of his rolls, many market losers. So this is the moment to cube.
I see. Yeah.
If black didn't have this vulnerability, if we give to black the same racing equity, the same racing number, let's take another position. Let's say that we give the same position here, but we simply remove this vulnerability of being hit or being pointed on your head. Let's take this checker 8 steps back. Let's take this checker 7 pips ahead and give another pip by making this point open. Same racing numbers. This is nowhere close to a cube. There is no race lead. You need a race lead to cube this.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see the numbers.
Yeah, you would need like 15 pips.
Something like that, yes. something in the order of 15. Interestingly, this is not so far from a cube. These checkers are still stuck, but it's not far in numbers. In numbers, it's not far. Normally, you would cube this only when you get a more significant advantage, like, for example, blocking another point of the exit from black, or getting a significant race lead, or maybe even getting black completely stuck there in a couple more rolls. Black would need to start crunching his board or something like that. So yeah, that doesn't look like a cube just yet. It's really the threat. Also, look at the numbers. The numbers are low. It's in the 500s. Even if you were cubing here, the mistake is not so big, but your equity is not that big.
Yeah.
The value of the position for you is not that big because I took away your potential of attacking and winning a gammon, or winning the game earlier with an earlier cube that is not possible to take.
Yeah.
And here, okay, the vulnerability is big. We see that the numbers are much bigger. Double and take is over 800. So yeah, we identify it because of the threat. The reason is the threat. The threat point on the head of black. And again, because it's not a certainty, it's still a take.
Yeah.
Not a certainty. Many numbers don't. Black also has good numbers. That's why I can take the cube. Very interesting. So it's a double and a take. Both players recognize it. Recognize the moment. Learning how to cube and how to take properly is an art, and we see both players mastering it really, really well. We see very accurate cube play from both of them, very remarkable. And the game continues 6-2 exactly. This is one of those bad rolls, relatively. You see, this is why it was a take last roll. And obviously, you don't want to hit loose here against a 5-point board. You don't want to receive a one-way ticket to the crocodile pool. And we see here, black is doing whatever he can, but the situation is still dangerous so long as this checker cannot escape. Pointing opportunities exist. Double 5 was dangerous as well. And now basically white has an easily winning game. Let's simply see the rolls. Escaping, but he's hopelessly behind on the race. Entering home. Nothing unusual here. I don't see anything to analyze. Do you see anything to analyze? Oh, look at this. Geert sees double 5s as well, and he's back in the racing game. Anything to talk about before or analyze before in these moves, the last few moves?
Not that I've noticed, no.
Not that much. Yeah, maybe go over them pretty quickly because these are the final moves of the game, unless we see a big coming at some point. If Geert keeps rolling these big doubles. 6-5, that's a nice roll. He catches up somewhat. Yeah, the race becomes equal suddenly. Look at this. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. And this is wow. This is really good for Geert, this 3-2.
Yeah.
Advantage, but he rolls a 2-1 right after that. Wow, it really goes down to the wire. It is still 50% winning chances, and we have like 4 checkers left on the board, 3 checkers left on the board, and it's still 50-50. It can go either way. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
4-2 is good for Geert. Double 5s, game over. There was never a recube. Wow, what a devastating roll. What a devastating roll for Mark. Wow. This roll brought the position from... no. Geert already had very decent winning chances here, 69%, but double 5s just kind of clinches it. And with this, we end the broadcast for today. Final remarks before we join you guys for part 2, that at this moment still wasn't recorded.
It was a very interesting game to analyze, and it's always easier to see what the right move is once XG has already analyzed the position. But it is very interesting to see why XG thinks certain moves are better than others. So, and it was also very nice doing this with you, Itzhak, because you make me see things which I did not see before. So that was also very interesting for myself. And I'm very happy to get this opportunity to do this with you.
Thank you, Inge. We will probably have many more opportunities for this. And it is true because XG gives us numbers, but it doesn't tell us stories. We need to be able to find the stories behind the numbers. And the more we understand stories and we know how they fit together, hopefully we can make better decisions from time to time in our own games.
Yes.
And with this, we basically end for today. Just again, the same word from our sponsor, just like you saw before. And we say goodbye for now.
Bye.
Hi, this is Backgammon Master Isaac Solsky. I'm the sponsor for this program, and I'm a trainer with the Backgammon Learning Center. We watch videos in order to learn backgammon and improve our play. We like reading books and articles. We like posting questions in all kinds of backgammon forums and take advice from strong players. But if we are serious about improving our game, there is no substitute for a methodical approach, like having a personal coach take us systematically through all of the aspects of the game, teach us the reference positions, and see where we are stuck when we have a problem, where we think the wrong way, where we always tend to have the same kind of errors. A personal coach can notice our specific needs and failings and take us exactly through the road that we personally need to travel in order to reach the next level as soon as possible. Why spend years trying to collect all of the relevant information on our own, while a good coach can simply show us what we specifically need to learn at our own rhythm, at our own time, always recognize the next bit of information that will take us to the next level and save us a lot of time and effort in our backgammon journey. Join the Backgammon Learning Center today. You'll see the email address in the description. Drop me a note and let's schedule your first lesson.